Is the Harley Davidson Ancestral home under threat? Let's get into this one. Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. I hope you're well. If you like what I do here, don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell for future videos. So, the ancestral home of, well, not Harley Davidson, but the Davidson family, as we know, it's in Scotland. The little two-room cottage, as it were, it's under threat. Why is it under threat? Well, let's dig into this a little bit further. Father Davidson actually emigrated over to the United States from Scotland, and where he was living until 11 years old. The cottage where he grew up, that was left to rack and ruin until it was rescued in 2008 by three Harley Davidson enthusiasts who basically saw this derelict house, a derelict building, and they recognized what it was, and they put together a plan to buy it and restore it, which they did. So Mike Sinclair, Maggie Sherritt, and Keith McIntosh, they set about over the next few years just getting the finance. They did up all the house, and they made it into what they restored it to what they believed it should have been back in 1857, where Father Davidson grew up as a young boy. And it's become a bit of a mecca for Harley Davidson enthusiasts to ride it to Angus in Scotland and to go visit the house. So what's the problem? What's gone on? But in 2021, the house was put up for sale, but there have been no takers. Well, no takers, no offers from your normal people, apart from property developers. So the Davidson Legacy Cottage project, the charity really, they're trying to, well, get this house. They're trying to buy it. Now, they got part funding from the government, and they've been able to get some further funding, but they've been putting out funding requests all over the place, and nobody's biting. Nobody wants to fund this project or just to keep the house alive. So the Harley Davidson cottage could easily be bought out by property developers, and it could be knocked down, quite simply. Now, as you can imagine, in this very quiet rural area, the cottage itself, because it attracts so many Harley Davidson enthusiasts, has become a bit of a mecca. It's become a bit of a tourist attraction. So the original restoration of the cottage is kind of expanded into the grounds and the facilities that they provide as well. So it's not just the cottage, I would imagine. It's a little bit further around where we're talking about the property as a whole. But the question is, who is selling it? And also, why are there so many problems in trying to buy this property or have it protected? Now, the figures involved to protect this house is quite astounding, really, considering it's only a very small property. If we're just talking about property prices in that area of the country, well, it's a lot of money, in my opinion. But when you add in the legacy of the Davidson thing, especially if you're a fan, then you can see why the value would be so high. But you got to understand, this is just not for a very small cottage. This is for a little bit more than that. It's my understanding. There's a charity that is running it. You can have functions there. You can have day trips there as well. I think you could rent out the cottage as well to stay in it at certain points as well. There are other facilities there. Their plan is to expand the range of facilities there and offer more in terms of a tourist attraction. So this is why this is not just about saving that cottage. It's almost like saving a tourist attraction and the potential to make it an even bigger tourist attraction. That's what they're really saving. Well, certainly that's my understanding as well. But they just can't get the funding. They've got part government funding, which is going to be taken away if they can't match the funding. I think it comes into the region of about a total of $500,000. There are various figures being thrown around, £320,000 up to £500,000, or maybe what the property is valued at. But they can take in $320,000 or $340,000 just to buy this property and just to keep it safe. But they may need extra money just to pay it off a little bit more. Regardless, they haven't got the money. So they've got until about October to try and save this property from being sold. But is it the three original owners who bought this property and restored it, or is it somebody else who's trying to sell it? The people who are trying to sell it said that they're just retiring. But we don't really know, well, what else are they trying to do with the property? Are they desperate just to keep it within the charity? Then if they're that desperate to not let it go to a property developer, why can't some sort of deal be done? Why can't they just sell it for a reduced price just so the charity can buy it? Maybe they are trying to do that. Maybe they're not trying to sell it for market value at 500,000. They're willing to take 320. Let's say, I'm making up these figures as I go along here, but that's what I've been reading. Maybe that's what they've accepted. But the fact of the matter is that the market value is at 500,000 and maybe even a little bit more if property developers get on board. So this little cottage has been a tourist destination for many Harley Davidson fans who especially just right up there in the spring, summer and autumn go up to Angus and just go check out the cottage. But that's not enough. You're going to need a lot more than that to save this cottage. If you're not a Harley Davidson fan, if you're a motorcycle fan, if you're not into motorcycles at all, you're unlikely to take a beeline to go and see this cottage, in my opinion. And when you get there, there isn't a lot to see. Really, if you think about it, it's just a cottage. Obviously, they're going to give you talks about the history and what would be going on there during that time. But in terms of Harley Davidson, well, this was all before Harley Davidson was a thing. Well, certainly Davidson got into his shed and started tinkering away with bike engines. So what is there to save? Has this tourist attraction just been made up, for want of a better word, because it's the ancestral home? It's been given more credence than it deserves. I don't believe that. I think there is some credence to this property and because it is the ancestral home. I do believe it would be even more if one of the brothers Davidson actually lived there. If this was their actual home, if it was the three brothers who were born in Scotland and they lived there until 11, 12 years old and then they all went off to United States, that would give it a lot more of appeal, I would imagine. But as it stands now, I just don't think there is that appeal. And that's why they're probably struggling to get financing and get supporters for this. If you're interested in finding out more about the Davidson Legacy Cottage, just go to their website, davidsonlegacycottage.org. Now, of course, if you want to help, if you want to support, if you want to help buy this property for the charity, then of course you can lend your support there. But it begs the question, if they don't manage to buy the property and you've donated, then what happens to the money as well? I would imagine all the money's got to come back. I don't really know. I don't know what the legalities are of taking money for a certain project by a charity and then ultimately that project fails. What happens to this property at the end of October? Because this is where the money from the government will be withdrawn unless they can match that. And if they can't match that, then they'll never be able to buy it. This is the key thing here. They're not going to be able to buy this property at all because there won't be any government funding for it. Because in terms of Scottish heritage or British heritage or English heritage, there isn't actually anything there. This is an American company. It's the ancestral home of three brothers who were born in the United States to a father who once lived in Scotland when he was 11 years old. So in terms of heritage for England and Scotland, especially Scotland, there isn't anything there, I would imagine. So that's why you would imagine that the money could be withdrawn from the government to say, well, if you can't match it, we're giving you an olive branch here, but if you can't match it, we're going to use that money for something else. What happens to the property afterwards? What will the owners do? Will they sell this property or not? And as I say, I don't really know who owns the property. Is it the original three who bought and restored it? Or is it somebody else? Is it only just one of them? Whoever it is who owns this property is retiring, don't want anything more to do with it, and they're looking for somebody to come in and take it over and to buy it off them. Well, perhaps they could look at maybe a part ownership or maybe just renting it out so they still keep the property but they rent it out, something like that. Perhaps something can be done so that the Davidson Legacy Cottage charity, as it were, they don't have to buy it. There's a thought. If you know a lot more details about the cottage and the history and of course the current plight, please let us know in the comments below as well. If you like what I do here, don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell for future videos. And I will catch you again, another video coming very soon, and hopefully, the charity will be able to get this thing sorted and the Legacy Cottage will be saved, because, as I say, it is a mecca for Harley Davidson enthusiasts and also motorcycle enthusiasts. If you're going up to Scotland, hey, there's something to go and see and just find out a little bit of history. And I always believe it is really important to hold on to history as well and know where our history comes from, as it were. Catch you again. Bye now.